I'll let you know when you're good. Okay, you're all set.
Thank you. All right, good morning, all. At this time, we will call together the special meeting of the Corrections Advisory Committee. We, at this time, do not have quorum. We are not able to satisfy quorum as only 5 members are present. So we will begin this meeting as a point of information, and there is open call for discussion on matters that will be presented. But unless we make quorum, we will not make any major decisions during this meeting. With us today, we have Teresa Judge of the Department of Administrative Services. Our purpose of today's meeting is to have a conversation regarding the job posting for the ombudsman position within the Department of Corrections, to clarify anything that Ms. Judge has questions on, remembering that we did come to an agreement regarding language in previous meetings. So we are on one accord as far as the nature of the position and some specifics that might not have translated clearly to Mrs. Judge. So those are matters that have already been voted on, which we can reiterate if necessary. So at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Judge to share her questions and give us the status of the position thus far.
Good morning, Melinda. I'm muted, right? Good morning, Melinda. Thank you so much for having us today. And we are very excited to meet the committee. Our apologies for any delays that you have experienced. We were in my unit unaware that this had been drafted and gone through the legislation last year. So we only just found out about this in April. So I apologize. Just for background for the committee members, the DAS Smart HR unit, we provide HR services to 23 state agencies. So we're a little unique in state service where it's not just one HR unit for Department of Corrections or one HR unit for, the Department of Transportation. We have 23 separate individual agencies, including DAS. The office.
Thank you for that acknowledgement and clarity, Ms. Judge. I realized that I moved too fast and didn't clarify for you who the members of the committee are on this line, as general public members are also present.
Thank you.
Today, as committee members, we have Scott Semple. Scott, you can wave your hand a little bit. We have Dr. Rena Kapoor. We have Andrew Green. Andrew, I always mess up your last name.
It's like earring, but with a G, Gearing.
Gearing, thank you.
Thank you, no problem.
Ty Dooley, serving as co-chair, and myself, Melinda Johnson, serving as co-chair. And joining us now are other committee member, Keisha Velasquez.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And with me today, I actually would like to introduce Brittany Besaw. She is a DAS Smart HR generalist too. She is actually assigned to the Office of Governmental Accountability. So for the day-to-day transactions for each of the small units that fall under the Office of Governmental Accountability, she is the point of contact. So she will be working very closely with the committee in making sure that this job posting is up, providing applications dependent upon. I know you just mentioned that there was a consensus on the original draft of the posting. So depending on what comes out of the meeting as far as how we are going to collect applications, and we wanted to provide some clarity on process, like our typical process in DAS, to see how we can best support the committee to get these candidates so you guys can move forward in your process for the nominations and to bring it forward to the governor's office. So with that said, can I just jump into some of the information that we have, or?
Yes, if you can jump into what has been created thus far, and then from there, any questions.
Perfect. So the actual job classification, in order for us to post anything on our state website and to hire somebody into the state of Connecticut executive branch and into our system, we have to have a job classification to tie a candidate to. So that was the initial steps that took place. There is a separate unit that creates job classifications. So they, based on the Protect Act, Public Act number 2218, they actually drafted a job classification. I believe I shared a link, and if you do not have the link, we can share it now for the entire committee. And then when we have the link, we can actually establish a position. We have to have approval to fill the position in the budget in our core system. So when the governor actually makes the final nomination, somebody is hired into the role, we can tie them into the system so they get state benefits, they're paid correctly. Thank you, Melinda. I see that you dropped that in there. And so those are the behind the scenes transactions that have to occur, which is why we couldn't even post anything, because we didn't have the job classification to tie it to. We have that now. And what we've done in advance of today's meeting, we have taken the job classification. We took the draft announcement that was provided to us. We merged it into the format, and we wanted to share that with this committee so they could see how we merged it and why it is written the way it is. So for like just clarity of going through, the typical selection process when we post something on the State of Connecticut website is that when it's put on it's called the Online Employment Center, an applicant or a candidate will apply and submit a master application. It goes through, however long the position is posted. And in this case, we see that you're going to accept rolling applications. So there's not necessarily an end date. And at which point we would provide a list to the hiring managers for review. That's not going to occur with this. This is an unclassified appointed position, meaning it does not go through the typical state competitive process. And that's a long explanation, but I just wanted to provide that context and clarity because we have more flexibility with this job posting. So Brittany, do you have the job posting? Can Brittany share her screen? Does she have the capability to do that?
Brittany, let me know if you do. If not, Nate, if you can help us out.
I'd have to make her the host, so I don't think that's. Oh, there we go.
Perfect. So when we post on our Online Employment Center, this is the typical format for a job posting. It will give the title, the location, the date. If there is a close date, we will change this to update it to show that it's going to be an ongoing recruitment until filled. So the information at the top, the way it reads, we took everything that was provided to us and put it into this format. So it flowed the way these postings typically do. So we have captured all of the information that was provided, and I'll give the team a minute here to read this, or I can, where it's highlighted, it's linked. So a candidate can click on the Protect Act, Public Act, and they'll be brought right to that. The same with the Connecticut Department of Correction. They can click on that. It'll bring you right to the state's Connecticut Department of Correction website. So any interested applicants can obtain additional information and do a deeper dive into what they're looking at. The State of Connecticut Office of Governmental Accountability. So we're talking about that we're currently seeking this position. We have the background on it. That was the language provided regarding that it promotes and advocates for the health, safety, welfare, and legal rights of individuals incarcerated within DOC. And if you scroll down a little bit, Brittany, or up, we've captured the bulleted points that were provided in the initial Word draft. Now, it looks different because, can you scroll down to the bottom, Brittany? These automatically tie into, so where you see the purpose of the job class and the examples of duties, the link that Melinda provided earlier, it ties directly into the job classification. So there was a lot of duplicative language in here. And that is why a majority of it is moved to the top, because some of the examples of duties are in there and it was very, very long. when you were reading through it. The job classification that was created, so anybody, whether this job posting was up or not, this job classification is out on the Online Employment Center. If somebody just typed in ombuds, they would see that this is the purpose of the class. These are the examples of duties, the knowledge, skill, and ability. And the preferred qualifications came from the language that was placed in the Word document that was provided to us. So I know this is a lot to review here, and it may be worth us sharing the link so it could be compared against the original Word document so the committee can confirm, and have that review to say, yes, everything is in there. It's captured. It flows nicely. I'm sorry. Okay, I wasn't sure if there was a question. The application process is really where we had a lot of our questions. So typically, again, candidates will submit a master application in the Online Employment Center. We will then share that at a later date, but we cannot accept like resumes within the system. We can ask for them later. So in the original document that was provided, there was an application process that was included. And I would recommend that the committee stick with that application, where they're going to submit the application package to the advisory committee with the cover letter, the summary of the one-year plan, the list of 3 references. It is the second bullet because obviously the original stated that you will consider the applications and conduct the interviews on a rolling basis with an aim of interviewing candidates and selecting 3 to 5 finalists to participate in public hearings in late May of 2023. So we haven't made that date. So I would love the committee's input for what date you would like to update that to for us to put into the document. And then you had applicants are encouraged to submit materials on or before May 19th. So we will obviously need to modify that date to give the committee enough time to review that. And then we can keep everything else the same. You would just need to update that. So if there is a date or time, we can have that put into the application process, update this job announcement, share it with the committee. And if we get a green light, we can post it and we could have this posted tomorrow for you if you wanted. I know I just went through a lot. This is a lot to read. Some people are driving. So we can share an updated link. So we can share a link so everybody could view the actual posting, what it would look like. If you have, Brittany, will you scroll to the top? So where we have the introduction there with the Office of Governmental Accountability, if you have a picture or anything linked to the committee that you want us to share and put in there, we can. In addition to being posted on the Online Employment Committee, our Talent Solutions team does a massive outreach to minority communities, organizations, associations. If there are any that the committee members have, associations or areas that they would like it shared to, we can post it there. It would be posted on our LinkedIn. They have a handshake. So it will be sent out to multiple applicants.
Thank you, Teresa. In
You're
addition
welcome.
to emailing the link, can you please put that in the chat at this time so people can access it? That'd be helpful. And I have a couple of questions, but I see Scott has his hand raised.
Sure.
Thank you, Teresa, for clarifying everything. Just really quickly moving forward, once we get to a candidate selection process and we begin a kind of formalized interview process, who is involved from a government perspective? And are there specific requirements in terms how an applicant's interview is conducted?
So that is a great question. Thank you for that. Typically, when we go through a competitive process, HR will review the questions, the interview questions, and make sure that I am so sorry. HR will review the interview questions to make sure that they're consistent for every applicant that comes in. We provide feedback based on what is captured in the job posting. And typically we like to make sure that we have a diverse panel. So we want a racially balanced, gender balanced panel for all of our applicants coming into state service. We want them to know that we're committed to diversity. And that's actually included in CHRO statutes, believe it or not. In this situation, because it is going to be an appointment by the governor and it's unclassified, it doesn't follow the exact same process, or it's not required to follow the same process. So the committee members could let us know who they would like to sit in on the panel, and we can help to schedule interviews, or you guys can do that if you're doing it through the public hearing. I'm not sure how that process is going to look in this position, because it is a very different position than our typical, we're hiring an accountant and, you know, it's a unionized position. This is really, the committee's going to review these candidates and then present them to the governor for his nomination. So we can modify our processes to make it work. So that would be, I think, a further conversation as we post this and as we move forward.
Scott, does that satisfy your question? Okay, thank you, Teresa. Additional questions. So in addition to the outreach that you all do and the posting on the state website, are we able to use that link and post it in other spaces? Okay.
Absolutely. We encourage you to.
Okay.
Can I follow up on that? Can you guys hear me? This is Tig.
Yes.
Teresa, first of all, thank you so much for all that clarification that we probably should have done in advance. I apologize that we didn't kind of know the parameters. But in terms of sharing this in other networks, putting it on other, listservs or whatever, do we have to then use the exact language? I can't see it, but you have sent it to me. But that exact format in those other fora, so to speak, or can we, include, for example, the original posting? Because I do think there's folks who aren't on the call today who, will want to look closely at the link and might be curious if we can share the original sort of Word document that we had agreed on in other contexts, or if we're limited to the link that you've prepared.
I would say you're limited to the link that's prepared once it's approved. So I want that to be out there, because what we don't want to do is to have any sort of a compliance issue or somebody coming back to the state, to the committee, to CHRO to say, well, it didn't have the same information. I was looking at something different. I had a different understanding. So we try to be very consistent in what we provide to our applicants and our candidates when they're reviewing. Again, the posting, and I know you can't see it right now because you're driving, we will not put it up until the committee says, yes, this looks great. I truly do believe we captured everything that was submitted initially, and it was just modifying the flow to meet the job classification, how it was drafted. But I would not recommend or advise on sharing a separate posting that's different from the finalized version.
That makes total sense. I think it just, maybe this goes without saying, but I think it does mean that we need to take a beat to circulate it to the folks who aren't able to read it now, and just kind of probably revote or something. And hopefully do that as soon as possible, obviously, as you guys are ready to go, and we appreciate that.
No, of course. And what we will do, Brittany, actually this morning we were reviewing further, and there was like a spelling, a word was missing. So we had sent it back to our talent solutions team to make sure they inserted it. So once Brittany has the updated version, it will say, so when you see it, it's going to have that bullet that says in late May of 2023, applicants are encouraged. So obviously we will not be posting that. We want to get a date from the committee, have it updated, and we'll have it, encouraged to submit materials on or before. You may want to do it for the end of July. We could, get it up first thing next week. We are ready to go once the committee gives a green light on it. And if there's any modifications, if you don't like the flow, we tried to make it flow nicely. And so it didn't, there was a lot of redundancy based on information was already included in the job classification. So that's what we were trying to eliminate. But we also captured all of there was a lot of information in there regarding, I just want to share, having the demonstrated experience advocating for the rights and well-being of incarcerated persons, being a leader, including supervising diverse teams and possessing demonstrated cultural responsiveness. So we kept all of that in there. It's just in a different location in the format.
Understood. Teresa, thank you for that commitment and affirmation of timeliness and being able to move this forward. I do want to just pause to give a little summation of of what it appears that where we are. So to reiterate, Tig, we do still not have quorum, so we will not be able to make a decision today. So we will move forward with the process of circulating our original draft as well as the draft that DAS now has to the full committee and asking them to respond with any thoughts or questions. And then to your point, to call another meeting to solidify that we are in agreement with whatever elements need to change or whatever elements need to stay the same, prioritizing the shift in that timeline that's listed in the posting thus far. Teresa, just to reiterate process, it seems that this will be posted to the state website, but the application process will be as we advised, so that applications will be received to the committee. So with that at hand, I think Amina, Nate, and Kirsten will need your assistance in identifying some kind of standardized email address for the committee in order to receive those applications. I don't know if that's been done before with any other ombuds positions, but if that's the procedure that we'll take, we'll need that kind of mechanism in place to be able to receive applications. Yeah, I think that's the summation kind of where we are right now. Does any other committee members have any questions or concerns? And if not, then I'll open it to the general public for questions or concerns.
Just in consideration of Melinda, the rules of order, considering the fact that we do not have a quorum, are we able to not close out this meeting and keep it open in order to get a quorum so we can move as quickly as possible?
We are. Thank you for posing that idea. So we can leave this as an open meeting, but we'd still schedule another physical time to get together virtually to close out the meeting. Yes, the answer is
Just
yes.
a point of clarification. Sorry, it's Tig again. I thought we had 6. Isn't the quorum just a majority, or is it 7 out of 11? I thought we had 6 on the call.
That's what I texted you about, Tig. I thought the quorum was 7.
I'm not texting and
6?
driving. Yeah. I think it's 6.
Okay.
It's a simple majority to take action, and if I'm not mistaken, there's 11 of us. And I thought you mentioned there's 6 on the call. But I have no problem just leaving the meeting open either.
Okay. So what is the will of the committee? Do we want to move forward now, understanding that we do have a quorum of 6 of us? Do we want to make these decisions now in setting a proper date and reviewing the documents, or do we want to leave the meeting open?
If we have a quorum, I recommend that we move forward and set a date.
Set the date. The date for the document or the date for the next meeting?
The document.
Dates for the document, okay?
Do we have 6?
We have 6. Just to reiterate, there is Scott, Dr. Kapoor, Andrew, Tig, myself, and Kisha. Kisha just dropped off. Kisha was here.
Yeah,
We had 6.
Well, if it's just one more, maybe the chairs could text some members really quick and get people on in the next couple of minutes since we're so close.
Yeah.
And while we're waiting, Melinda, I would suggest I would yield to Teresa's expertise and her colleagues' expertise of what an appropriate time frame would be. That's my recommendation.
Thank you. I would agree with that recommendation. Any opposed to that recommendation? Is anyone able to text Melvin by chance? Because I do not have his number. I'd lean on the support of the committee members to contact other committee members because I do not have the Rolodex in front of me. I'll text Mel. Thank you, Senator Winfield.
I tried calling Kaisha, but it went to voicemail.
Okay.
So is Gary calling Melvin?
Yes.
Okay.
So Teresa, while we're trying to get those elements nailed down, are you able to share with us in your expertise what an appropriate time frame would be?
So I would recommend leaving it open for a month. Understanding in consideration, I understand that this is, something that was supposed to occur. We're already beyond the initial date that we were supposed to solicit the candidates. However, we have found, and we've actually gotten recent feedback with the state, that when we only leave something open for 2 to 3 weeks, we're really selling ourselves short. And it is summertime. So typically, this is the time of year a lot of people are vacationing. They're not job seeking as much as they do during other times of the year. So I would recommend probably if we were to have it up next week at some point. We also have a holiday on Tuesday. So taking that into consideration, I would recommend posting it through August 4th at a minimum, maybe August 11th.
Okay. Thank you.
Teresa, is there a downside to doing it even longer? Honestly,
we
to
need
me,
it.
sorry.
We need you.
There's not.
Yeah, I kind of think, this is Tig, sorry. At this point, and this rolls in a little bit to the funding issue that we were addressing in our last meeting, and I don't know if Senator Winfield's able to provide us more intelligence on that, but I believe we are stuck with the original appropriation, which kind of means that there's, it weirdly takes a little, it's unfortunate, but it sort of takes a little of the pressure off in terms of getting the person installed. And I do think it's really important to cast a wide net. So my inclination would actually be to have kind of a 2-month period, and maybe it could be rolling, and then we do the hearings in September. I'm just one person though, and definitely interested in what others have to say on that. But I think I certainly wouldn't want to do a 2-week application period. I think longer is better.
Thank you for that, Tig. I do just want to present an update that Senator Winfield has actually come off the line, but now present with us, we do have committee member Melvin Medina, and
Yeah,
Kaisha
Kaisha.
Velasquez was able to join again. So we can vote.
I just wanted to respond to Tag that there is not a downside to posting it for longer at all.
So Tag, what are your suggested dates then? From July 1 through, you're saying September 1?
Yeah, I would just think it's logical if we think we can get this posted by July 1st or, first week of July, basically say we're going to accept applications through July and August and have interviews and hearings beginning, September. That, just kind of what sounds right to me, but if anyone disagrees, I'm definitely interested in hearing those reasons.
There seems to be agreement in the chat from Andrew. Scott is suggesting just a little further into September being September 15th to allow us to move further and process in September.
I'm recommending August 15th to allow review and then process.
So you're saying August, he's saying September. Okay. So let's put the time frame to a vote. 2 months. Kaisha, am I saying your name right?
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
You are. Thank you.
Kaisha agrees with 2 months. So let's put the matter to a vote. Is there a motion on the floor for applications or the application process to be open from July to August? Is there a motion for July through August, closing
That's
August 15th?
Through or to?
Huh?
Say to August or through August?
Through August 15th, August 15th being the last day of the closing.
I'm fine with the chairman's recommendation. I'm just trying to get to an end game as quickly as possible.
Understood. So we'll strike that idea and move with the September.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. Okay. So a motion for the job posting and applications to be received from July through September. So that's all of July, all of August, ending September 1.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Andrew. It has been properly moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor? A hand raise, an aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It looks as though the ayes have it. Motion has passed. All right, so look at us. We got a date. All right, next question at hand in that list, Teresa.
I'm sorry, can I make one quick comment to Scott regarding the applications? And I do not know how the committee members will be meeting to review applications, but you can review applications as they come in. You do not have to wait until the September 1 date. So you can start to review your applicant materials as they come in.
Okay, that is helpful. I do want to solidify our closing date as to, Scott, I see your hand raised.
I'm sorry, but that leads to another question, Teresa. If we can review the applications as they're coming in, can we begin the interview process before the closure date, even though we continue?
Yes, you could.
Perfect.
That is helpful. Okay.
And I would just ask that we had a follow-up meeting just regarding, the interview process and what that's going to look like, and set a guideline so we have something, for the transparency to the team, to the public, but something not for today, but we could discuss that because you can review applications during the process. This is an appointed position. However, it is different because you are going to be selecting a group of individuals to move forward. So just a little further understanding on our end on what that's going to look like towards the end. But, and then just, regarding the panel and the interviews, but yes, you can interview as this application process is going on.
Thank you. That is helpful. Teresa, with the posting not in front of me, I believe there were 2 dates within there. The first was the set of dates for the actual application. What was that second set of dates?
So it actually, the bullet says the correction on the original announcement that was provided to us. The Correction Advisory Committee will consider applications and conduct interviews on a rolling basis with the aim of interviewing candidates and selecting 3 to 5 finalists to participate in public hearings in late May. So we've decided on the second sentence, which is applicants are encouraged to submit materials on or before. We are going to put September 1st, 2023. So it is that public hearings in late May. So I don't know if we want to say public hearings in late September, since the applications will be, completed, and if the committee feels that they can do interviews throughout the process, or if you would want that to be in late October. Sorry, Scott.
Okay. So when do we want to arrive at our 3 to 5 individuals? Are we trying to arrive at that decision within September? Are we setting a date for ourselves by mid-September so that the hearing takes place within September? Or are we saying we want to continue to interview, even though they're happening concurrently? People are applying and we're able to also receive their applications and interview them, not waiting to collect all applications first. Do we want to say October 1 is our cutoff for having decided who these persons will be, and then conduct the hearing in October? Looking for general feedback before we move for a motion.
Hey, this is Andrew. That sounds good. That'd give us a full month to identify the finalists. Seems to make sense. I think trying to have the hearing in September might rush things a bit much.
This is Tig. I think that's fine as well, as long as it sounds like we are making clear in the posting that it's a rolling process and that we're interviewing throughout. I agree that we can't cut it off on September 1st because, there could be a great candidate on August 30th or 31st. So, we might not need the full month of September to finalize, but I think it's fine to say public hearings beginning October.
Okay. All right, so for that decision, I'm looking for a motion for the public hearing to take place for the candidates that are selected within October.
So moved.
Thank you, Andrew. Looking for a second.
Second, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. It has been moved and properly second. Are we ready for the question? All right, all in favor, if you can say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. So it looks like we got our dates in order. Is there any specific verbiage within the secondary document that anyone had question on? That link again is in the chat, and it seems that we want to move for that review to take place now versus waiting for later. So if you could tap the link in the chat and quickly just take a look if anything jumps out at you. Teresa, I do want to ask the language regarding the elector has been removed, correct?
Correct. If you look under the special requirements, towards the bottom, it says the ombudsperson shall be a resident of the state with expertise and experience in the fields of correction and advocacy for the rights of individuals under the care and supervision of the Department of Correction and/or Board of Pardons and Paroles. So the elector language was removed. That was when the job classification unit was placing it together. We have other ombuds positions that speak to being electors, and that's where that language came from. So we just wanted to confirm that that would be removed. And as far as the link that was shared, Brittany, did you get an updated draft? Did you put an updated link in there? Thank you. I'm going to click on that now.
Melvin and Kaisha, that link is Kaisha jumped out. Oh, she's still there. Melvin and Kaisha, that link has been re-added to the chat, so you can see it since you just jumped back on. Take a moment to review.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Take a moment to review and we'll ask the question again.
And Melinda, while the committee is reviewing, I just, for clarification, that language was and selecting 3 to 5 finalists to participate in public hearings. It originally said in late May 2023. I just want to make sure should it say public hearings in October 2023?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take out the late. Thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
And does everybody have the original draft that was shared? Do you want us to drop that in?
If you can, please, that'd be helpful.
Brittany, can you drop that in? I shared it with you this morning.
Peg, I know you're on the phone, but I've also know that you've looked at this 1,000 times. So
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm interested in, if others have any concerns. I know, some folks who may not be on the call felt strongly about certain language. I believe that is encompassed there, and leave it to you guys to confirm that now. I'm fine with the language that was shared with me.
yes. And just so the committee knows, other conversation, thank you, Melvin, for saying it looks good to you. Other conversation that took place via email with Teresa was in regards to residency. Does the person have to currently be a resident in order to apply, or do they have to be a resident by time they accept the position? And the answer from our earlier meeting, where we all agreed the individual does not have to be a resident at this time. It is preferred that they are a resident. It is also preferred that if they are not a resident, that they have significant experience within the state of Connecticut, but the person does have to be a resident by time they assume the position.
I think, just to clarify, we're a little hamstrung by the statute. They have to be resident by the time they're interviewed.
By the time they're interviewed. Thank you. All right.
Melinda, may I point out one more item, just as the committee is reviewing this document will change. So I want to be very clear, because we have to have them drop in that application process language.
Yeah.
So we will not modify any of the content regarding the duties, any of the content regarding the experience, et cetera, et cetera. It will be just that application process with the voted on dates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, committee, are there any questions or reflections on the job posting? Anything that needs to further be adjusted, Scott?
If I heard Ty correctly, it sounded like the potential candidate has to be a resident before the interview process. I just want to, I think everyone would agree that kind of limits our capability of recruiting for people who have a ombudsman experience in correctional entities outside of the state. So I'm gonna, lean on Tig as an attorney. Is like, where is that? Is that the committee's opinion, or is that the opinion, of the read of the requirements for statute? Or where is this determination coming from? And if I'm just suggesting that it would really make a lot of sense to be able to expand our horizons of candidates outside of the state, with the understanding that they would move within state if offered a position and accept it.
Yeah, this is Ty, Scott. I agree entirely. I don't think anyone on the committee prefers that language. It's straight from the statute. I don't know if anyone's able to pull it up. I'm pretty sure it says interviewed and not as opposed to the hearing. I still think we should look outside the state. We should encourage people to apply outside the state. And if they're, we can defer interviews until later in the process if we think they're a good candidate and that they are likely to make that commitment. I guess you're right. It's a big ask to say, hey, move here, even though you don't know you're getting the job. So I'm happy to take a harder look at the statute. I'd love that language not to be in it at all. But I don't know what we can really do about that on this timeline. I don't think we can ask the legislature to strike it. So I think we're stuck with it.
Right. Teresa, thank you for putting that extract into the chat. So we see here a portion of the article that's specific to that question, Scott.
Yeah, like I said, I can't see it now. I'll take an hour or two. Andrew, who's a lawyer, anybody else, we can research if we can get around it. But
Yeah,
I agree.
looks pretty clear, Ty. I think we'd be pretty sneaky if we tried to get around that.
Yeah.
Plus, there's a lot of great people in Connecticut. We'll be fine.
All right. Thank you for that clarity, Andrew and Tag. Any other questions? Any other concerns regarding the language of the current posting? All right, are we ready for a motion? All right, so I am looking for a motion for us to accept the draft posting provided by the Department of Administrative Services, given that the dates concerning the application process will be changed according to our earlier amendments and discussion. And also given that the application process description will be inserted according to what was provided to the Department of Administrative Services from the Corrections Advisory Committee. Do I have a motion?
Sorry, Belinda, but before we do it, is anybody able to read out what the posting?
Just like that, huh? Let me see if we get him back. Dropped out in the middle of a question. Hey, you dropped out in the middle of your question.
Hey, am I on with everybody right now or just you?
Just me. Can you jump back in?
I'll try to jump back on. Sorry.
No problem.
I'll be right there.
Boy, this phone tree game is fun. We got your back, Ty.
Hi, sorry about that. I think I was asked, or what I intended to ask before I got cut off was just to make sure that the posting does not suggest that there's a residency requirement to apply. I can't see it in front of me. And also, depending on what it says, should we make more clear, and maybe Scott can weigh in what he thinks, should we say directly, you do not need to be a resident to apply, but need to be willing to move to Connecticut and establish residency when interviewed?
Thank you, Ty. Can you confirm that? We're trying to move towards a motion before Scott has to jump off.
So to Ty's question, if I understood the first discussion on this, it sounded to me, at least what I heard, was that if someone is going to be interviewed, they have to be a resident of the state. Or is it if someone is going to be, did I hear that correctly? I'm a little confused. The thing that I'm suggesting, and you all know this, is like, who the hell is going to move here to get interviewed?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, my primary interest is that of everyone else. I'm certain in that we have systems that have ombudsman, that have deputy ombudsman, that have lots of experience in correctional entities. We haven't had an ombudsman historically in this state in a long period of time, although I'm certain we do have people with capabilities and ombudsman experience, but I think it just kind of gives us a kind of a narrower, we're going through a stream rather than a river.
Mm-hmm. Ty, feel free to respond.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I didn't hear everything Scott said, but I think we all agree it would be better if there was no residency requirement during the application phase. What I was saying is I do think we're stuck with the statutory language, but I would not be opposed to the extent the application, the posting is unclear about this. I wouldn't be opposed to saying something more directly, saying you do not need to be a resident of Connecticut to apply for this position, though you will need to establish
Residency in order to interview. Yes. So yes, Scott, that is what the, just to be specific, yes, the statute says you must be a resident before interview. And what we're saying is the timeline to correct that statute would defeat the purpose of our press right now.
So I guess the question is what defines.
Yeah, I don't think we.
Go ahead, Ty. I guess the question is, for me, is what defines residency?
Teresa?
The special requirement says that the ombudsperson shall be a resident of the state. So upon appointment, they absolutely shall be a resident. However, that language says that Correction Advisory shall solicit applications for such position and need to consider and interview the most qualified candidates who are residents of the state. The actual job posting does not indicate, other than that special requirement that's part of the job class, it doesn't say you cannot apply if you are not a resident of the state. It does not say you have to be a resident of the state in order to interview.
Teresa, to Tig's question, is there anywhere specific in there where it says you must be a resident of the state in order to be interviewed? In the posting, does it say that? No. Okay.
No, in the link, the Public Act, that's it. It does link to that language because the Public Act is embedded within the posting.
So the question to the committee from Co-Chair Dooley is, do we want to put that specific language in there where it says in general, anyone can apply? It doesn't say, you have to be a resident of the state, but at some point in that posting, it does specify that you must be a resident of the state upon interview. Do we think there's value in adding that language or no?
I think it doesn't hurt, this commission, it doesn't hurt to add it, so it's very clear, because that's what we're shooting for, is we prefer someone who is the resident of Connecticut.
Okay. All right. So it seems to be a matter of question, so let's put a motion forward in regards to this additional language. Scott, are you satisfied?
I'm kind of, the more we talk about this, the more confused I get, because I'm starting from the perspective of what statutorily defines a resident of the state. I'm staying in a hotel for a week. Am I a resident? I mean, I don't know. You
Yeah,
know?
that statutory definition is something we would have to look into. But, you know, right now, just for my kid to get in a summer school program, I got to give them a bill that shows we pay bills at this residence. I don't know if that's statutorily the definition, but I understand the question at hand.
You maybe I'm overthinking this, but my goal is like everybody else, is expand the pool as much as possible so we see what's out there, and this limits it. And that's all.
Am I back in?
Yes.
Sorry, guys. I'm like going to my kids' camp, so my cell service is dropping. And if I'm key to quorum, we should get the vote going. I didn't hear the proposal. I agree, Scott. There are like, you know, there's cases on what a resident is. I think all that matters now is we're stuck with resident, and I just think we should say you don't need to be a resident to apply. That's all. We don't need to say anything else. We just, in order to cast the broad net, I think the posting should just make clear, if it doesn't already, that you do not need. And we can deal with what you do need to be later. We can say, hey, we appreciate your.
It just seems like you're hiding the ball a little. If you put in there, you don't have to be a resident to apply, then somebody finds out and then applies and finds out you have to be a resident to interview. I think if you're going to put down, you don't have to be a resident to apply, you should also put down, but you do have to be a resident to interview, just so people aren't getting like drawn into this under false pretenses and get a little ticked off. I would be if I was.
I'm in agreement with you, Andrew. Are we, Scott? I see you leaning forward. Are we good to move towards a motion? Yeah, okay. All right, so looking for a motion to add additional language to the job posting that specifies you do not have to be a resident to apply, but you must be a resident at the time of interview. Very clear.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Andrew. Looking for a second.
70, love. I second.
Thank you, Kaisha. It has been moved and properly second. Ready for the question? All in favor? Aye, or raise of hand?
Aye.
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 Okay. All opposed? 2 oppositions. I am voting in favor as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The ayes have it. All right. Teresa has put the language in the chat for clarity, but the motion has been successfully made. So that additional language will be inputted. All right, we can move to our conclusion, I believe, with the final motion. I am looking for a movement or a motion, sorry. I am looking for a motion to accept the job posting with the amended dates for application, the amended date for public hearing, the additional language regarding residency that we have voted on, and the additional language regarding the application process from the original document that the Corrections Advisory Committee provided to the Department of Administrative Services. Is there a motion?
I motion.
Thank you, Kaisha. It has been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Andrew. It has been moved and properly second. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor, if you can raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
3,
Aye.
6. All right, any opposed? Any abstentions? It has been moved and properly second. Thank you all for your committed time and making this special meeting happen and this important step of getting this job posting up. So Teresa, let me summarize what I think is our final steps. Teresa is going to get this new amendments and all of the final language that we have agreed upon today to the appropriate parties to make the final posting. And then we will receive notice as to when it is available. Our committee will be leaning on Nate and Amina and Kirsten for assistance in creating an email for which we can receive these applications, because that will need to be included in this posting so people know where to send their information. All right, those are our next steps. Let's make it happen. Melvin?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, should we be entertaining a recommendation for a legislative fix so that this doesn't happen again next time around, and get that language fixed so that it can be someone from out of state in the future, or if this round of applications don't work?
Well, given that most of our crew has jumped off once that final motion was made, I think that's a
For
point
next
of
time, for
discussion
next time.
Barbara?
Yeah, I had questions about the process, just to clarify for me. So the committee will get to see all the applications as they come through. They will be part of the interview process, and they present 3 to 5 people to the governor. And there's a public hearing in October. So when is the plan to hire someone? In September? And the reason I'm asking that because if we're hiring before October, why is the public hearing after we've already hired someone? Because I thought the purpose of the public hearing is to get public input on the candidates sent to the governor. So maybe you can clarify that.
No, I believe the thought is that the selection process would be taking place simultaneously with applications coming through. People will be interviewed, that the selection process would take place in September, that our goal as a committee is by October 1st, we kind of know who our people are. We have the public hearing in October, and then are able to submit the recommendations to the governor.
Okay. Because
Public
that's what I
hearing
was questioning.
before,
Yeah.
public hearing before submission.
Okay. And I just wanted to make clear why, when we had the conversation in the beginning about someone being in Connecticut, one of the reasons I was really hopeful that we get someone in Connecticut. And like you said, there's plenty of people in Connecticut that can do this job. But my concern is the last person that we got from out of state, I actually met with him. And he said he had no idea what he was coming to. He had no idea the disparity in population. He really had no clue what he was coming to. So to bring somebody who has no experience, lived experience in Connecticut, don't know the people of Connecticut, don't know DOC in Connecticut, you're not looking for the best candidate, in my opinion.
Thank you for sharing that opinion, Barbara.
So that's why it was important to me.
Thank you for sharing that opinion, Barbara. And Teresa, just so you know, Barbara Fair is the originator of Stop Solitary CT, and one of the primary advocate that pushed through the PROTECT Act. So that's why we hold her words at high esteem.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, any other sayings? And at this time, we will adjourn our meeting.